keep from getting too noisy for you. Good way to start the morning right there, huh? Well, just to make sure everybody's in the place they want to be, this is the How to Create Authentic Relationship at the workshop you wanted to come to this morning. Beautiful. Beautiful. My name is James Still. I call myself a love coach now. I started off as a life coach, and then I realized I was doing so much with people, helping them with the relationships. And love is one of those things that I was able to turn into an acronym, living our best version every day. So I like to use that now. So if I can help people to live their best version every day, then it's a good day for me. And I enjoy serving. And that's why I'm here, as many of the presenters are, is to serve from a heart-based place. And I'm sure everybody's had a good time so far at the festival, learning going to some workshops. And this is what, day 2? It's only day 2. Man, and I already feel like, poof, but my brain just exploded. Went to some wonderful workshops yesterday that were outside of my comfort zone. But what a beautiful way to grow, when you kind of get pushed out your comfort zone. And relationships are one of those things that can push us outside our comfort zone. Would you agree? Yes. And they challenge us. And those challenges and those moments that help us to grow as individuals with relationship. So just as everybody's kind of coming in, I'll do a quick survey, because I'm always curious. Anybody here under 18? I know one. That's my daughter. Anybody here over 65? There we go, gentlemen. Yep. Lots of wisdom there. Know a thing or two about relationships, I'm sure. And anybody here have children? Oh, yep, there's a handful. There's a relationship. Anybody here have siblings? Yep, more relationship. All right, I'm following you there. Parents. Anybody have parents? That should be everybody. or at least somebody that has served as a guardian for you. Now, I kind of ended on parents because that's one of those interesting places where a lot of our ideas about relationship begin. That's one of our first relationships that we have in life, is with our parents. And from that, a lot of things can develop. A lot of ideas about what relationship is and supposed to be can evolve, sometimes in ways that they call childhood traumas. I guess you say, a participant in some of that. I was an unwanted child. I guess back then they didn't believe in abortion, because if my mom would have had her way, that's what would have happened. And as it turns out, she gave birth to me, but she said, "That's it. You can take him." Now, I didn't realize this, people. I'm sharing this story with you right up front, because from that, my relationships throughout life were all about trying to be worthy of someone's love, and particularly a mother's love. Many patterns evolved from that. Relationships would come and go, and I wasn't realizing that I was a people pleaser. I was trying so desperately to be worthy of someone's love, particularly a female's love. I had a wonderful relationship with my dad. I felt validated. I felt seen. I felt appreciated. I felt significant to my dad. But as human beings, we have this innate need, typically, to bond with the mother. That's one of the first things that happens when you're born, is you go straight to the mother's breast, typically. And that skin-to-skin contact creates a relationship, creates a bond. And from that, we gain a sense of self-worth. And you can feel that love. They have this thing I learned about some years ago, failure to thrive syndrome, which is what happens when you don't have tactile contact with a child. You can feed them, you can nourish them, But if they don't have, and that tactile contact is also another form of love, that holding, that caressing, that accepting. If a baby doesn't have that, I don't know if they give up the will to live or what happens, but they did a study, I think way back, I don't remember when it was, maybe in the third. I remember reading about it in sociology when I was in university. And it just really freaked me out. I thought, wow, that's how important connection is with another human being. And if we don't have that connection, that relationship, it can give us some trauma that we have to carry with us throughout life and try to work out as we go. So hopefully with this workshop today, we'll learn some tools, some things, some awarenesses to help us have authentic relationship. Now with that, I'm going to ask a question here. Anybody in a romantic relationship? Okay. Anybody want to be in a romantic relationship? Okay, there's a few more hands. Relationship is one of those things we have ideas about. And if you're not in a relationship and you want to be, there's a good possibility that you've associated more pain with being in a relationship than not. Because one of the things that motivate us in life, everything we do either comes from a place of avoiding pain and having pleasure. Those are two driving forces that we have. We want to avoid pain and we seek pleasure. There was the old comment about the carrot or the stick, which is most effective. But we use both now. We've learned in coaching to actually use both for yourself. So to avoid the pain, you use that as part of your strategy. If you want to work out or you want to get a better job or something, we'll use that. But for relationship, we tend to focus more on the pleasure aspect that we get from it. Now, as I was saying before, when I didn't have that relationship with my mom, I grew up and I would gravitate towards my female teachers. I so wanted their approval. I so wanted to be accepted by the female teachers. I was okay with the male teachers, but I really wanted the acceptance. Then when it came to girlfriends, I was always the nice guy. And quite often the girls wanted the guys that were a little bit more adventurous and exciting and the bad boys. And once again, I felt unchosen. I thought, well, this sucks being the nice guy. The nice guy never gets chosen. So I went through this rebellious stage in my 20s. I was just an absolute dick. And sure enough, that confidence and that kind of, I don't know, charisma or bravado, whatever, won the attention of these females. But I couldn't sustain it, people. It wasn't authentic. It wasn't who I was. At heart, I'm a nice guy, and that's just who I want to be. And so, I guess you say the learning that I took away from that was part of being authentic is, first of all, clarifying who you are, getting very clear about what your standards are, what your core values are, who you are. And having an authentic relationship starts with yourself. You need to have an authentic relationship with yourself. And that's something that we often try to find in an external relationship. It's some sort of validation, some sort of acceptance. We have 6 human needs. One of those is certainty. The first thing is certainty. If we weren't certain to some degree that this tent wasn't going to collapse on us, we wouldn't be able to focus on this moment. We'd be like, we're in fear mode. So we go into fight, flight, or freeze. And I think there's even a fourth one they come up with now. But the idea is we need certainty. Quite often we don't get certainty in relationships because we don't know what the other person's going through. We don't know what their thoughts are. At any given moment, they can have insecurities. They can have doubts. They can have their own issues, their own traumas. So right away, we're lacking some certainty, but quite often in that relationship, I want you to give me certainty. I want you to, and that is a big ask. That is a big ask in a relationship, to have somebody outside of yourself to provide you with certainty. So one of the first things we have to do as a human being is meet our own needs. That's just the first one, certainty. And as a love coach, living our best version every day, one of the things that I help people to find are ways in their life already that they have certainty. What areas? What do you currently do that gives you certainty? Let me ask you this, while you're thinking about that for a moment. Why does anybody go into relationship? Why do you go into relationship? Why do you have relationship? And we'll just, for this first one, we'll just say romantic relationship. Why does anybody want to be in a romantic? Those that had their hands up before that wanted to be in a relationship, let me ask you why. Anybody want to give me a shout out why you want to be in a relationship?
Yeah. It feels just so good.
It feels so good. So it's the feeling, yes?
Share your love.
To share your love. Okay, anybody else? To have romance. Yes, okay.
Mirror.
A mirror. Okay, so you want somebody to reflect, yes?
Be your best self.
To be your best self, okay.
That deep connection when you are so connected to that other person and you just feel alive when you're with them, you know?
That deep connection and that aliveness that you feel when you're with that other person.
Because other people are doing it.
Because other people are doing it. Hey, there you go. As many reasons as you just heard, and there's probably many, many more. Anybody else want to share?
Yeah, just build a future together, build something. You know?
To build a future together, build something.
Environment for your family.
An environment for your family. Yes.
I like the safety that comes with it to be vulnerable. See everything.
The safety that comes with it and vulnerability, to be vulnerable, okay? Beautiful. Yes. What was that? Companionship.
The physical.
The physical. All right, so yes.
Resources.
To share resources, okay? Any other thoughts about why you want to be in a relationship?
The fighting, you know.
What?
Fighting.
Fighting, you like to fight.
Give and take.
Give and take, okay. Some things can be lost in translation. And that quite happens in relationships. Are you seeing that everybody kind of has a reason for wanting to be in a relationship? Now I'm going to go one step further. This is kind of off the program. Anybody here in a relationship that doesn't want to be in that relationship anymore? Anybody here struggling with a relationship think, you know what, this one's just...
The question?
What's that?
Can you repeat the question? Or...
Okay, is there anybody here that's in a relationship that wants to get out of it? It's not working. It's not helping. It's not your...
Yeah, just at the focus of the thing. Yeah.
At the focus of the thing.
It just needs, there's a lot of trauma, I'm not sure.
A lot of trauma, yes. If it's too much for you. Yep. Okay, well there you go. Let's just see. Every one of us is going to have a different reason for being in a relationship. And then we're also going to have reasons why this relationship is not working for us. And for us to be our best version every day, we have to find a way of being authentic about that. All right? So as many reasons as you just heard for being in a relationship, I'm going to offer one that was given to me by a mentor, and I thought, wow. And I think it was to have an extraordinary relationship, which can also come from, I think in order to have an extraordinary relationship, you have to have an authentic one, was to magnify all the joy that life has given you. You go into a relationship to give, not to get. Because as soon as you go into a relationship to get, you immediately put the other person in a position, energetically, etherically, whatever it is, you put that person in a position of, you're almost like, it becomes more of a transaction. Fill my need for certainty. Fill my need for sex. You know, it becomes a transaction, which is not a relationship. Well, you can call it a relationship. It's not going to be an authentic relationship unless you're both in agreement that's all you want. Maybe sharing of resources might be good enough. Maybe you don't need anything else. Maybe you just need, or something of that nature. So we're all going to have an awareness that there's another person in our life, and then if we start putting it on them to help me fill this need of certainty, which is one of our first human needs. The other ones are getting filled in just a minute. I'll explain those to you. It's going to be difficult to sustain that relationship. Now I'm going to ask you another little tricky question. What is the percentage of a relationship, the give and take, or the commitment to the relationship? Is it 50-50? You think 50-50? 25-75?
Yeah.
100-100. This lady nailed it. That's exactly it, people. You got to be fully committed to this thing. It's not a, well, I did this, you should do that. I do this, you should do that. I gave, you should give. When it becomes that, it goes back to being a transaction, not a relationship. So if you're in a authentic, extraordinary relationship, you're giving 100% to that relationship all the time. Is that making sense? Does that seem a little bit too heavy? Too hard? Are the expectations just too high? Okay, well, there's some things to consider about an authentic relationship. You have to understand this within yourself. And part of what I do as a love coach is I help people to really discover these core values about themselves and what really drives them, what they're really the needs that they're trying to fill, and to help them become resourceful and fill those needs themselves. All right, so the second need, this is the one that gets people in a lot of trouble. It's just the opposite of certainty. Can anybody guess what that might be? You're going to say uncertainty, okay. In a relationship, quite often, that can also mean variety. Now, for some people that want a monogamous relationship, too much variety is going to break down that relationship. You're wanting to go here, you want to go there, you need too much variety. But if that person can, it's not just sexual, by the way, I mean, it could be anything. That's another one of our human needs, is that we need variety. We need that stimulation. We need that, otherwise we get bored and we get complacent. That's part of what working on a relationship is about. Not for the other person, though. That's the tricky part. You've got to fill your own need for variety, so that when you show up in this relationship, you're showing up as your best version. You're not saying, hey, I need you to give me more excitement. I need you to, you know, I joke about this because I'm a country singer, by the way. You probably wouldn't guess that. But I use this accent to some good use. I'm a country singer, and we have line dancers all the time. And I always make this joke that I'll tell you, like an ex-girlfriend told me when she wanted me to try something new, variety, it's only weird the first time. And that's for all people that's standing on the sidelines wanting to jump in and line dance, but they just kind of think, that's too weird. And then I reassure them once they've done it, it ain't wrong, it's just different. So anyhow, the idea is that's variety. And that's a human need that we have. These needs that I'm talking about, we are trying to fill on a regular basis through our subconscious. And does everybody, I don't know if anybody knows about how much of our brain is actually, of our actions, are being controlled by our subconscious. I bet some people have heard this already.
95%.
95%? There you go. That's all happening on a subconscious level. So we got that little window of 5%. And thank God we have choice. As a sentient being, that is one of the beautiful things that we have, people, is choice. So during that 5%, we have choice to take actions that can be transformative for us, to fill the gap in relationship from where we are to where we want to be. And we'll discuss that in a minute too. But we have choice for that 5%. The other 95%, we're on autopilot. So like for my personal life experience was, I was on autopilot trying to get the affections that I didn't get from my mom. All right? I don't know if anybody else has had anything like that with a parent where they felt like they didn't have that connection with them, and then that pattern has repeated throughout their whole life in all the relationships that they've been in. That's where you sometimes will get that mirror. When you get in a relationship and they trigger some of these things, and you don't know why this is bothering you so much. When you start doing that living our best version every day techniques and stuff that I do as a coaching, you start taking ownership of that. You start realizing, okay, well, I don't need to be a victim of this, because as soon as you see what it is, as soon as you realize, that's why I wanted to be a people pleaser. I'm trying to fill one of these human needs. So that was, we talked about variety. So the next one is, so we got certainty. The opposite of that is variety. The next one is going to be significance. Who doesn't like to feel significant? Like they're here for a reason, that somebody sees them. One of the sweetest things they said that a person will ever hear is their own name. That's why quite often when we're meeting someone, we're waiting for our name to be introduced because we want to hear our name. That's happening on a subconscious level. You're not necessarily doing that because you're ego or whatever, but it is because that is the sweetest sound that you'll hear is your own name. That gives you significance. You have a name. You have a place. You are seen. As a child, how many times were you told, I don't know about you guys from my generation, be quiet. What's the expression? Seen and not heard. Okay, seen and not heard. Wow, that seed gets planted really, really early. That you can feel very insignificant. Now, throughout your life and relationships, subconsciously, you're trying to fill that need of significance in some way. And quite often in a relationship, you want that other person to treat you like a king or a queen. You want them to make you feel significant. And by all means, if everybody's showing up in their best version, you can do that. You can have that give and take. You support the other person to fill their needs. You don't enable them. You help them to find ways of feeling significant. Of course, you learn their love languages. Of course, do the best you can with that. But you have to be authentic about it. If you're doing it just to appease them, it won't be long until you forget to do that. And then shit's on again. There's another fight. So you help your partner. You help that other person to become more resourceful to fill their own needs. Help them to find, and that's how you support them. You don't fill their needs for them, because that's not going to be authentic. You're creating a very difficult situation for yourself if you go into a relationship and you're trying to fill their needs. I can speak from experience. Me wanting so desperately to have someone love me, subconsciously, I wanted to be the hero. I wanted to be the savior. I wanted to be the guy that swept in and took care of all their problems. What I didn't realize was I had an expectation that by doing that, they were going to get better. They were going to be happy. They were going to be fulfilled. It doesn't work. It didn't work for me anyway. That's why you have to help them become resourceful to fill those needs themselves. You don't have to be anybody's savior. As a matter of fact, more times than not, that's going to turn around and bite you in the butt, because you're going to get exhausted. You're going to be fatigued. What starts off as a little bit of resistance, like, oh man, why does he always do that? Why does she always say that? Will eventuate into resentment. It persists. And then the feelings start getting more nasty. And then at some point, you reach that point where you're like, I'm just done. I had enough. This sucks. You might be physically there, but emotionally, you're no longer there. That's not authentic for either one of you. And that's what I think they call repression. That's where you don't want to get to that. As soon as you start feeling the resistance, those are going to be some of the triggers. Those are going to be some of the things you're going to have to look at and say, okay, why am I feeling this? Am I trying to fill their need for them? Because I know as a coach, quite often I feel like I want them to achieve their goal more than they want to achieve it. It's like, that sucks, So I have to really remind and help them through techniques and strategies that I have to help them find that passion in them, because they might be going down this path because their friends are doing it, because their mom and dad planted that seed some time ago, because their culture says you need to be very affluent, you need to have lots of money, you need to be a doctor, you need to be a lawyer. I was going to be a lawyer. I didn't know what one was. I went all the way through high school and got to the point, I was a straight A student and all that, because my dad planted that seed when I was 5 years old. My dad always made me feel significant. So I wanted to please Dad. If Dad as it turns out, Dad needed a lawyer. I didn't realize this at the time. We were running from the law for about 12 years of my life. And I was going to a different school every 6 months. I didn't know this until after he died, my uncle told me. But I thought, why are we always moving? I never had a chance to make friends. I never had a chance to really have friend relationships. Another area that I have missed. Because friends take some effort. You gotta put some effort in this. You gotta show up. You gotta be there for the good times, the bad times. That's the neat thing about friendship. It's another relationship. And I didn't get that. So I started seeing people as temporary. Every relationship was temporary. So was I 100% committed? I don't think so. As far as I was concerned, 6 months is the best. This was all happening on a subconscious level. I was not aware of this. Do you get that? This is all seeds that were planted from 0 to 6. From 0 to 6, so many seeds are planted in our little minds about relationship, about so many things, but I'm just talking about relationship today. And then if we don't have someone to help us to work that out, patterns persist. So we got up to our fourth need. So we got certainty, uncertainty of variety, significance. What do you think the opposite of significance is? Freedom? Love? Connection? It is connection. Love and connection, you guys. But that's oddly enough, it's at the backside of significance. So if you're so significant, say like a celebrity, they have to kind of hide, but when they go through grocery stores,